comes to a topic like this, it's always well, at least I thought, I know exactly what I'm going to say. And when it comes down to the point when I had to start to prepare, I realized that it's not always that easy as it seems, a topic like this. But nevertheless, I want us to think about this, about faith and works tonight, and how does it play a role in our lives, and how does the Bible show us what does faith and works have to do with each other. There's a story of an old Scotsman that operated a small little rowboat for transporting passengers across the lake. And one day, a passenger noticed that the good old man had carved on one of the oars the word faith, and on the other, the oar, the word works. And curiously, he asked about this. And the old man, being a well-balanced Christian and gladly of the opportunity for the testimony, he said, "I'll show you." So he dropped one of the oars and plied the other called works. And they just went around in circles. And then he dropped the oar and began to ply the other one called faith, and the little boat went just around in circles again. So no matter which one he dropped, the boat just seemed to go in circles, either one way around or the other way around. And then he picked up both of the oars, faith and works, and by plying both oars together, they sped swiftly over the water towards the destination. And he said, "You see, that is the way that is in a Christian life. Dead works without faith are useless, and faith without works is dead, and it will also get you nowhere. But faith and works pulling together make for safety, progress, and blessing." Do we have the slides for this tonight? Could you go to the first slide? That is the old Scotsman with these two oars moving on the lake. That's an interesting analogy that I first heard once. Friends, you know that there's a lot of claims to faith in this world. Many different faiths. If you do a quick little search on Google, you'll find that there's more than 4,300 different faiths in this world. And that is an astonishing amount. And all of them stake a claim to believe in something or someone. Faith, you could say, is truly universal. Most people believe in something. They have some kind of faith. And Apostle James wants us today to contemplate on our definition of faith. What does our faith means for us? And that's the question today. Or put differently, we can ask is, can I truly say that I have faith? Can you say that you have faith? Apostle James starts this passage by saying, what good is it, brothers, if someone claims to have faith but has no deeds? It's interesting that he starts with this question. What does it help if you claim to have faith? Let's quickly look at the idea of claiming something. If I claim something, if I look at the Collins Dictionary, if you claim something, then you try to get it because you think you have the right to it. If you claim money from the government, for instance, in an insurance company or other organization, you officially apply to them for it because you think you are entitled to it according to the rules or their rules. That is claiming something. So applying this definition to our claim of faith, because he says, if you claim you have faith, let's see, if you can you claim to have faith? We could say that our claim to have faith must be met by a certain set of rules. Otherwise, the legitimacy of our faith is in question. James' argument here is in the first verse is clear. He says, faith and deeds go together. But let us, apart from faith and deeds, let us look at other claims people often make when it comes to faith. The first of them, you can go on. You can go on as well. First claim to faith is faith and works. First, faith and words. Which one do I need to press?
The down.
The forward?
The down button.
The down? Okay. I'm not going forward, I'm going backwards. Go backwards to go forward. All right, so first claim is faith and words. Apostle James says, suppose, look at this, suppose, is it there? I have to go forward, yeah. Suppose, he uses the word suppose, because why? Because the faith claim needs to be investigated. So suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. And if anyone say to him, go in peace, keep warm and well fed. Now that's an interesting, just an example that he uses. Let's suppose there is this situation. Now, this claim I often hear and it's not a new claim. Let us take, for instance, just a example. Can I use this chair? If I have a chair, and I ask you, do you believe that this chair can sustain the weight of a man? Is there anyone that would disagree?
Depends on what man.
It does indeed. Okay, so let's say for instance this chair was not one of those chairs. It would have been a little bit different. Let's say for instance it was just a small skamiek or something. It was like a chair that's not really sturdy or whatever. And I say it would sustain the weight of a man. Would everyone agree then? No. Maybe not. Okay. So if I would say, Vlad, do you mind sitting on this chair, please? We will see if this chair... Do you mind?
I'm afraid.
He's afraid. Is his faith wavering already? Okay. Not with so much passion. Thanks, appreciate it. All right, so it shows, this chair shows itself to be very faithful, well, sturdy. It can actually hold the weight of a man. But what does that say about my faith if I ask him to sit on that chair? Did you notice that? I did not go and sit on this chair. I asked him to sit on this chair. So what does it say about my faith? Because I'm wondering about what to say, I told him to go and sit on that chair to show us if it will sustain his weight or a man's weight. It's a question about words. Often we use our words and we think that our words portray faith. Like, here comes a man and he's hungry. And I say to him, give him something. You can go, eat, be fed, be good. Great, you can go. Does that mean anything? Did my words change anything in that person's life, really? It's almost as if sometimes we think that our words are faith in themselves, as if they portray the faith, but they don't at all. They do not show anything at all. What does it say about my faith claim? You know, nothing really. I could repeat 1,000 times that this chair is sturdy enough, but I will not know. I will not be sure if I actually don't go and sit on this chair and I make sure of myself. I mean, there needs to be an action from my side to sit down and show that it actually can sustain a man's faith. We can apply this to other truth claims out there. For instance, if I say, you'll soon be better. You'll soon be better. That's a thing we often say, you'll soon be better. But does that show faith? Might. Things will get better. When my ship comes in, often we say, when my ship comes in, I'll do this and I'll do that and I'll do this. And it's like we like to almost want to try to portray faith in say these things like, you'll be better, my ship will come in, everything will be better, or soon we'll have a better president or another president or whatever. Friends, does any of these things really change anything in the outcome of our health or our wealth or our circumstances around us? In just saying it? No, it doesn't. Why? Because words in itself really do not change anything physically. Why? Because he says, what good is it, brother, if you claim to have faith and you just say things? You'll be better. You do this, you do this. See, with your claim to have faith in that situation, there needs to be a certain action, and words are not enough. There might even be people who says, "Yeah, I'm tomorrow. I'll really, my ship's going to come in. I'm really going to make it this time." But without me going and doing physically work or doing something to gain money, no ship is going to go nowhere. Definitely not going to come in my direction if I do not do something about it. So, first we need to understand, although our words can be powerful, I'm not negating that fact. In many ways, Pastor Caleb will preach on the use of our tongue next week. Merely words are not enough to meet any given need. Neither does it confirm the existence of faith. So I conclude that faith with words as a companion is not yet faith. The second option, but that's the first faith claim, just faith in words, which really is not faith at all. The second faith claim people often have is, you can go on forward, I can go forward. Is faith, that is what we just said. I should have gone forward. Faith and nothing else. Second one was faith and nothing else. It sounds funny, but James 2 verse 8 says, "But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds.'" It seems almost as if Apostle Paul is quoting someone here when he said that. It almost sounds like a quote, but actually in the original Greek there was no quotes there, so it's something he didn't make up. Nevertheless, there are people that think like this. There are many people that might have the same argument that James put forward here. He says, this might be a claim that some people have faith and some people have works. Or it might even be a claim that not every Christian needs to have them both. It's like some Christians are faith Christians and some Christians are work Christians. As if you can divide them up between, you've got the works, I've got the faith, and that's how it works. Some people might think. But James says, you believe that, but James uses an example to explain that this is not the truth. We cannot think this way. He says, in verse 19, he says, "You believe that there is one God." Good. Even demons believe that and shudder. That specific verse, this verse is perhaps one of the strongest statements in the scripture on the difference between knowing God and having true faith in God, when you think about this. The question James asks here in verse 13 goes like hand in hand with this statement. He says, knowledge is not the same as trust or obedience or faith. So James argues that even demons believe that there is one God and they shudder in fear of him. You see, it's not enough to believe that something is true. Real faith in God asks for us to respond to that truth with trust and obedience, with in action what we do. See, the statement that God is one may have been a reference to the Judaism central idea of God as one, known as the Shema. It's also found in Deuteronomy 6 verse 9, which is, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord, thou God, is one." And everyone in those times when James used this probably would have recognized this. But James' point is that it is not enough just to say something, just to agree it. It says, let's put those who talk about God, that puts those who talk about God, but fail to act in ways consistent with that belief in the same category as demons. And that's a scary fact. See, it means knowing but not trusting. It could mean dead faith rather than saving faith. The danger of this condition is that even self-assured religious person can spend their entire life in simple agreement with without even crossing over into true and living faith. See, that's the danger if we think about just this kind of faith where you say faith and nothing else. I have faith, you have deeds. It doesn't work like that. We can never think about that. And that brings us to the third option, faith and deeds. Apostle James says in verse 18, where James says, I will show you my faith by my deeds. And that is his clear, message that he wants to put across in this small little passage. It says, this is the main emphasis that what he wants us to understand today. It's not faith alone, nor is it faith and empty words, but faith needs action. It's almost, if you can hear James saying, and don't take my word for it, let me give you an example or two, because he gives us two examples in this passage to explain to us what he means by this. He says, I have two examples here. First example was from the life of Abraham. Now, Abraham was the forefather of all Israelites, so they knew Abraham very well. And when Abraham was 100 years old and his wife were 90 years old, God gave them a son, a promised son. And they waited for him for a long time. That was their only son. And at a certain point, God said to Abraham, now you go and you sacrifice that son. And as absurd as it might be, Abraham was obedient to God's call, and he went, took his son, took him to the altar, and he was about to slaughter him when God provided a ram and told him not to sacrifice his son. But he took him, he was obedient to God, he was about to kill his one and only son when God said, that's okay. You've shown me that you do believe in me, you do follow me, you do whatever I tell you to do. So it was he says, and then he asks the question in verse 21, he says, was not our forefather Abraham considered righteous for what he did? It's that is absolutely the biggest example of faith that you can actually think of. When God calls a man to do something that I probably would not even think about doing. And almost as blind obedience, he just goes and he does what God tells him to do because God called him to do. A step of obedience, going and doing what God asked him to do. When we speak about, when James speaks here about righteous, I just want to make one thing clear. I just want to make clear that the New Testament clearly states that no man can be declared righteous before God, when we speak about righteous before God, by his or her works. The New Testament is clear that our righteousness does not come from the works that we do. It's not our works per se that makes us righteous before God, because no one can obtain righteousness before God because of your works. Romans 3 verse 20 clearly teaches us. Is it there? Yes or no? Yeah, it's there. Therefore, no one will be declared righteous in God's sight by works of the law. And that's important that we understand that. It says, even though you might do a lot of things for the Lord, do many good things, does not mean that you are righteous in God's sight. I just want to clear that up, because although deeds is necessary for us to show that we have faith, it does not mean that your deeds means that you are now righteous before God. Because then most people that I know of in Belgium, because I lived in Belgium for some time, and I spoke to my neighbor and I asked him about his life, and the conversation went over into more of a spiritual nature. And when I tried to speak to him and said to him, well, we all sin and we all do bad things, and he says, yeah, maybe you do, but I don't. And I was stumped. I'm not exactly sure what to say. And I said, so you don't lie? No. You don't do this? No. I'm like, okay. The thing is, from his point of view, he could consider himself a righteous person. Why? Because he doesn't do bad things. But righteousness does not come from doing only good things or from not doing bad stuff. It's not how we obtain righteousness in this life. I just want to clear that up, because this Old Testament passage can be confused. This New Testament passage from James can be confusing by if it says Father Abraham was considered righteous for what he did when he asked that question. In verse 22, we see James says of Abraham, his faith and his works were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did. And that is the emphasis of this message today. It says his faith was made complete. So his faith and actions, you cannot take these two apart from each other. Like saying, you have faith, I have actions. I have actions, you have faith. It does not work that way. James wants us to understand that you cannot speak about faith and live like a heathen. You cannot speak about God and live the way you want to live. It's impossible, because if you say you believe in him, then you have to live the way that he asks of us to live according to the Bible and according to his law. So you show that your faith is genuine by the works, by your holy life. So this is an astonishing example of Abraham, of a man whose faith in God was so strong that he was willing to do anything God tells him to do. I'm going to use this example as well. It's not the best example that there is. It's an example, cannot be the best example. It's just an idea. If I have a coin always has two sides. And James also says, verse 26, as body without spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. So if I say I have faith is like the one side of the coin, then surely there must be something on the other side of the coin, and that's my deeds. Why? To show that it is a genuine faith. Otherwise, it's obviously a coin that only has faith on the one side and no deeds on the other side. Well, basically, there's only one thing on the coin on one side, then it would not be a genuine coin. It would be considered not a genuine coin. So is our faith as well. If it does not go over and you show your faith by your holy life, then your faith, basically what James says, it's dead. It's useless. It doesn't mean anything. And that's the sad part when we think about many people when they claim to believe in God, but they live as if they live for themselves, totally for themselves. They do not live for God. Once again, Ephesians 2 verse 8 to 10, I want to just make it clear that for it's by grace that you have been saved. I don't want to give us the idea that because because of your works, you can now be saved. That's not the truth. It's by grace that you have been saved. As Apostle Paul makes it clear when he writes to the Ephesians. And not from yourself. It's a gift of God, not by works. Not by works. So it's not our good deeds and our works that can save us eventually. It's by doing good stuff. When I was in Turkey, I spoke to a Muslim evangelist. And our discussion went over into a theological discussion. He said, I asked him, how do you know that you are saved? And he said to me, well, it's like a scale. And he said, it's about my works. If I do more good works than bad works, then God credits it to me, and then I will be saved. And I said, now, what if you do, how will you know if you have done more good works than bad works? And he said, I'll never know. And that was a sad part when I spoke to him. I said, well, I believe different. I do not believe that our good works could ever save us, because none of my good works can ever get me into heaven. And I explained to them that it's only through grace, through Christ, that Christ has died for us, and through his grace that we can have access to heaven one day. And he said, yeah, you guys are lucky. I said, yeah, we are. The point is, although this is a strong message that our faith, our actions must be preceded by our actions must, what's those words? I'm confusing those two now. First we have faith, and then we show our faith through our actions. It still is not enough eventually to save. It just shows you that you actually have true faith. The second example James uses here is also edged in the memory of Jewish hearers. It's about, because all of them from childhood must have heard the story of Rahab. Rahab was probably not the likely candidate to be a faith hero, to be honest. She was a prostitute in a corrupt city, pagan city that was under God's condemnation. And when the moment arose, she hid the Israelite spies, and she made sure that they did not get captured by the evil city of Jericho. And by doing that, she not only not only spoke about or spoke things, but she actually did something and showed her faith in the God of Israel by helping the spies and giving them a place to stay. You see, it's often when the situation is tense, that is exactly the times in our lives when we show our true faith. As when we often need to show our faith when it really comes down to that crisis situation. In Rahab's situation, it was a life and death situation. I don't believe she did that. She hid the spies because she was afraid for her life. I think she hid it because she hid them because she truly believed in the God of Israel. And my question is tonight, if we truly believe in our God that we serve, how are we going to act in a time of crisis? Are we going to act in faith? Are we going to act the godly way? Or are we going to act the way you want to act? See, James uses this unlikely hero Rahab as well, prostitute from that city of Jericho, to show us that her actions at that day saved her life because she strongly believed in God. She did the right thing at the right time. That is what counted at that moment. And so Paul concludes, and he says that as this body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. So our faith and action today, if we think about our faith and action, if our faith has to get practical every day, how does it look? Can we say that we truly show our faith by our actions? And we can ask ourselves, for instance, these questions. The power of prayer. Do we believe? Do I believe? Do you believe in the power of prayer? And I think often the answer is, we can very quickly say, of course I do believe in the power of prayer. But if we truly believe in the power of prayer, why don't we pray more? Why don't we just pray more? I don't pray as much as I should, and that's the truth. I can pray much more. What does it say about our faith, my faith in God that answers our prayers? So we have to think about these things because it's actually a practical application when we think about our faith. Do you believe that the gospel of Christ can save a man's life? So why are we sluggish to share the gospel with other people then? If we truly believe that God can save a person's life, what does it say about our faith in the power of the gospel to save a man? In God's power to save a man, if we are sluggish to share that good news with other people. Do we believe that God can heal people today? I believe. Why are we so quick to run to the pharmacy or before we go to God in prayer? Why is it that, we only at very after we've gone to the pharmacy, we've gone to the doctor, and then we say, yeah, maybe we should pray about this. What does it say about our belief that God can still heal people today? God can still heal me today of my cold or whatever my situation is. Do we still believe that God forgives sins? A very quick answer would be, of course I believe God forgives sins. But when it comes down to other Christians, we are often judgmental and skeptical about them even after they have asked God for forgiveness. You say, does God forgive sins? Yes, he forgives sins. Does he completely forgive sins? Yes, he completely forgives sins. Is that person still guilty after you've asked God for forgiveness? No, he's not guilty anymore. But in my eyes, he's still guilty. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we look at a person, he'll be guilty until I say he's not guilty. He's guilty. He's guilty. He's only guilty up to the point where he asks forgiveness. Then he's not guilty anymore. You see, it's all practical things about faith which you don't often think about, and we need to think about these things. So the list go on, but I think the picture is clear that we must make sure that our actions show the faith that we proclaim to have. We cannot live without showing our faith in practice. It's particularly important when it comes to our witness to people who do not follow Christ, because people look at us. They watch us. So you want to see how we react, maybe in a tense situation, maybe in a difficult situation. Do you really show your faith in Christ? Do you really live the way you should live? Are you actually portraying the life of a Christian every day of your life? I remember when I was in the army, I served 7 years in South African Army. But in my third year, I was an officer, and we were on the shooting field. And in those 3 years, I served the Lord while I was in the army at that stage already. So while everyone around me was every day constantly swearing, I never said a swear word. I never used foul language ever after I became a Christian. And in the army is such an environment that everybody just swears around you the whole day as if it's the normal thing to do, but I never did that. And that specific day, I am in what they call a shooting range, and I am with my troops in the hole. Guys are shooting from there, and we're just dragging down the what do you call those stuff? Targets. We're dragging down the targets, putting on the stickers and putting them up. We're just doing the leg work the whole day. It was like 40-something degrees Celsius, terribly warm, and it was like a terrible day. And we're sitting like ducks in there in that hole. It was like getting warmer and warmer and warmer, and this is monotonous work going up and down, up and down, up and down. And at some point, someone puts up the red flag so our guys can go out and get some fresh air. And then someone takes down the red flag and you jump down into the hole, and the day just drags on like that. And someone said the red flag is up, and we went up, and the next moment we realized the red flag is not up, and the people were shooting at it between our legs. And it was just bullets flying between our legs. And at that point, I just shouted out, "Get up, back into the hole." And I used a swear word because I had such a fright. And at that moment, everybody there just became quiet, like totally quiet. And everybody on the other side became quiet. And there was this dead silence. And my captain just took the microphone and he says, "Was that Lieutenant Stefan swearing?" And I'm like, I went to every one of my troops, I went to the captain, went to everyone, and I told him, "I'm sorry, that is not the way a Christian is supposed to do. That's not the way a Christian is supposed to live. I did the wrong thing. I'm sorry about that. Christians should not swear." Brothers and sisters, that was the biggest change in my personal life that day. I think God used that situation for good, because after that, so many of my troops came to me and they said, "Now we know you're just a human." He says, "Now, can you help me?" And people came and they opened their hearts to us, well, basically to me. And they said, "Can you help me? I have this problem, I have that problem, I have this problem, I have this problem." The point is, what I'm trying to make is we are human. And we do make mistakes. But we should never give up the strong desire to become holy like God is holy. Because that is what God asks of our faith. If you say you have faith, then there should be the strive in your life to live a holy life as faith asks of you. I cannot say I am a Christian and keep on swearing. I cannot say I'm a Christian and use a different scale for different people at the bazaar to make more money. I cannot be a Christian. I cannot say I'm a Christian and I lie to people or I slander people or I do things, because as Christians, there is a certain standard of living in our lives that the Bible asks of us, that God asks of us, that our faith asks of us. And we need to strive to live a holy life, because that is what faith that's what faith asks of us to do. If we claim to have your faith, if we claim to believe in Him, Apostle James says, live as a person that claims to have that faith. And whenever you fall like I've fallen that day, God uses that and He changes it for good. But we cannot just say, God just forgives me anyway and live the way I want to live, because that's not faith. That's not James. And that's why I'm glad that this passage is in the Bible. Otherwise, if it wasn't here, it was like, we're all saved. You can live the way you live. As most people I know in South Africa are like that. They just live the way they live. And I said, God will forgive me anyway. Brothers and sisters, let's think about faith. Let's think about the way we live every day. Because the way we live, people are looking at us. Non-Christians look at us, and they see our deeds. They see how we live every day. Do they see our faith? Or do they see people are just living the way the rest of the world lives? And they won't probably be interested in our faith anyway. Shall we pray together? Father God, thank you very much for your Son Jesus Christ that came to save us, not by our works, not because we are good, but by your grace you have saved us, Lord. But you have saved us to do good works. You have saved us to change us so that we will not live anymore the way we lived before. Because of your grace, you have changed our lives, and because we are now living as people who have been changed, now have been touched by your grace, now we can live a holy life because you have made it possible for us. We are not under the power of Satan anymore. We have been set free from sin. We've been set free from the power of sin that had on us. By your grace, we've been set free from that power, and we have now the ability to live a holy life for you. Help us, Father, to show our faith every day by the deeds that we do every day, by our holy life, by our strive to live for you, to live our holy lives in order so that the world can see you through us. It's not about us. It's not about our holiness. It's all about you, the way we live so that people can see you through us, that you be magnified through us, through everything that we do. Thank you for the world that can see you through us when we live a holy life. We ask you, Father, to help us to serve you, even to have that strive even more to live a holy life in order for your kingdom to be established further and further on in this world and everywhere around us. Thank you for your love and thank you for your kindness. We praise you, Lord. Amen.